Hello, this is Jer, playing on the radioactive ocean asteroid moonlit cluster. We just did a space mission in the last episode to get a couple Drecos. They're now in a stable, and I've got a little bit of fiber reed, and thanks to that, I've been able to make Atmo suits, and I've got Atmo suit dock right here. So very happy about this. So what are we doing today? Today we're going to be making sure these guys stay happy. We want to get them up to 8 in this stable. They're consuming pinch of pepper plants. They're growing wild, which we planted earlier with a pip. Eventually, I'm expecting one of them to actually give us a glossy version of the Drecos that will output plastic as opposed to reed fiber. So once that happens, we've got this incubator to speed up the process of those glossy Drecos over here. And we're going to be feeding them some bristle blossom. Down here, we did get these little slickers. That was thanks to the printing pod. Wasn't expecting that, but since they showed up, made a comfortable area for them. It's nice and warm, and they've been outputting a little bit of crude oil for us. So in addition to expanding the net amount of Drecos, we're going to be over on this asteroid here, continuing to plant wild slate wheat. We've got quite a bit of it so far. We've got this whole row filled up, so we're going to move down to the row below and even actually simultaneously work on this row. While that's going on, the dupes in this asteroid, they're not just going to watch the Drecos. Their project is to make a super rocket because we're on the moonlit cluster. I've done a space mission to visit these two asteroids. Got a little bit of iron here. The Drecos from here have not even touched the surface of Stinkania. But I want any future mission, I want to do in style. I thought I did pretty decent with my utility rocket. I had a vacuum area, which is destroyed now, but that was storing food that would never go bad because it was frozen when it was put in there. We had carbon dioxide, which was very helpful because we could essentially just refuel ourselves. And we had water, which we could use simply for generating oxygen. But I want to make a super rocket. And by a super rocket, what I really want to do is destroy these two tiles and actually build stuff out here. And have a much easier time of space travel if I can do that. To start this project of building a super rocket, we're going to need steel. I've got this metal refinery, which is made a little bit of iron, and it's pumping liquid in there to this zone, and it's actually starting to warm up. So I want to stop the production, or the heating up of this zone. Instead, I'm going to switch to this much cooler liquid that we've got down here. So here's the dupes making this change. We've got our new metal refinery located over here. Put the inputs to steel, iron, lime, refined carbon next to it. We've got a pipe going in, just normal line, going, putting brine or cool brine into the machinery. And insulated line is going to be going out, being dumped right here. Coolant is now on its way to the metal refinery. Some steel is being produced by rockets here. While that is going on, I'm getting the dupes to build a pipe from the output of this rocket. So this is the utility rocket I mentioned earlier, and it had infinite supply of liquid water for space missions. I'm going to be turning down this rocket, expecting that it'll be completely replaced by a super rocket. So let's get all the water out of it first and send that back into our base. Do the same thing with the carbon dioxide too. Carving out a spot underneath our gas masks. I'd like to put some Atmo suits here. This is actually going to be an important feature of getting the super rocket together, since I don't want anyone breathing out carbon dioxide and getting very hot. Created a pump over here, and we're dumping some salt water at this location. This is going to be a liquid airlock. So instead of relying on this door, which allows a little bit of gas to escape, no gas is going to escape every time the dupes go in and out of the space area. So there is the Atmo suits going in the Atmo suit checkpoints. So the dupes have to put these on when they go out in space. Now we've got some oxygen going in, some power to charge them up. Now I think we can turn down this system. We are incubating all the Draco eggs that we have. Currently there's 5 in this stable. I'd like to see 8. That's just going to increase the chances of us getting that glossy Draco, as well as getting more reed fiber in the meantime. Boots is going to be the first dupe to put on an Atmos suit to go out in space, as opposed to the oxygen mask. With all the Atmos suit checkpoints, we're going to need a lot more oxygen, so I doubled up the number of pumps. These pumps are combining their gas into one, filtering and sending a larger amount of oxygen, so hopefully that will increase the speed at which the Atmos suits charge up. What I did is I disabled these few, because I was only able to generate 2 more Atmos suits so far. Digging out an area here, we'll be putting in a metal refinery so that we can heat up the inside of this rocket, specifically the wall that's right here. I might actually deconstruct this rocket and recreate it because I want to have a vacuum inside. We're installing a bunker tile for just the reason that is happening right now. Meteorites, I don't want them to get in the way of my project of building a super rocket. See some uranium ore going flying around. But yeah, whatever is built in here, I want to stay secure. Building a liquid reservoir right here, and this is going to hold very hot liquid. In fact, we're going to melt steel and have molten steel stored in here. So the pipes for this have to withstand very high temperatures, so I need a rare material, obsidian. I don't have a whole lot in this world. Fortunately, over in this world, Flippy Toe, we have quite a bit. So we're going to mine that out and send it back to the homeworld. With all the carbon dioxide and water removed from the rockets, time to dismantle them and replace them with a super rocket that we're going to melt the side of at least one. We're just going to have one super rocket, get rid of this guy. And we can, we'll keep the platform for now, but concentrate over here on a new eventual super rocket. Main thing is it's going to have vacuum area inside it to start off with. The next step is bringing heavy watt wire out into space. We've got this thermo aqua tuner. It's made out of steel. Essentially, we want to melt this machine. It gets really hot when it starts to run, and if you actually run it long enough, it can actually turn to molten steel, in which in this case, we're going to pump that molten steel after it's melted into this liquid reservoir as for step 1 of this whole process. The old metal refinery that was down there, I'm dismantling the insulated pipe and the regular pipe draining out of the polluted water so that we can make way for a new system. This is going to be a brine line that goes around, takes a bit of heat, and visits the aqua tuner. So we need to give that machine liquid to be able to constantly cool, but we don't want it to be so freezing cold that the liquid actually freezes in the pipe. So that's why we're going down to this warm area to make sure it doesn't stay too cold inside the pipes. So constructing this aqua tuner with all the pipes and wiring around it, I'm eventually, as soon as this thing melts, I'm going to want to put in a steel pump right here. And I'm making sure I've got that line to go out into this liquid reservoir ready before I have to construct this. I also know that the power is in a different location than the aqua tuner, so already installing that. And then also making sure that that power is made out of steel, and that any insulation is obsidian in this area, and making sure power is cut. I don't want to turn this whole system on until I do all my double checking. So get all the pips down here working on this line, sleet wheat. Same time, just getting the dupes to prepare tiles, using natural tiles when they exist, making my own copper tiles if I have to. But what I'm doing right now is putting a pump right here, because I've got lots of polluted water. I just want to get that out of the way. I'm going to put that through a few radiant pipes right here, just to make sure that when it gets out of this zone and put into water sieve, it's not going to freeze in pipes. Are you ready to start melting steel? So I did a save. Gonna plug this guy in. My salt water is coming in. It's being cooled off. Heading back down. And that salt water will essentially go down here, take on some heat, and make its way back up until this guy melts. I'm going to click on Disable Auto Repair. And the hope and expectation is this thing's going to melt before it actually breaks. So the temperature is going to keep going up and up. We're already over 200 degrees, 222. So rising very quickly. And when it gets above, I think it's 2400 or something like that, it actually turns to liquid. Very important, very, very important that we've got some drywalling, made that out of obsidian behind so it doesn't leak out in space. But when it does land here, I've got these airflow tiles, so it's not going to interact with them, meaning it's just going to hold its temperature until we can build that pump. First bit of damage is done, but as long as this thing heats up at the melting point before the red bar gets to the bottom, that's not a problem. Just checking on the slickers and the system that is supporting them, seeing that this is properly moved eggs out of the incubator, out of the stable, which is really awesome. This is indicating that if it's above 7, we essentially want to open the door. That's not the case, so we close this door. And if that's the case, then we want to wrangle to do one of these slickers. I'll reach the spot just above this anti-entropy machine, and I had an issue in the past planting anything that was in these tiles. I'm going to try again just to be curious. I'll show you the results in a little bit. So noticing the red bar is getting really low. We're close to the temperature it needs to melt, but we're not there. I'm going to enable auto repair. So some of the dupes will throw a little bit of steel at it to bring it back up. And then we'll, hopefully that's going to be enough so that this thing will melt. A little bit of repair going on, just to make sure that this thing does not completely break. Some repair was done. I'm pretty certain we're going to be having this thing melt before the red bar gets all the way down to the bottom again. Well, the pips have proved me wrong on this one. Actually, happy to be proven wrong. I still have one more tile to go. It may be the fact that the last time I played through, it was this tile I was trying to get into. I just remember building or trying to get a pip up right above this machine didn't work out for me last time. Anyway, so far so good. Noticed some molten steel. That is really good. So we're going to make a pump. It's out of steel, high priority task. Get that to be built and hopefully pump that into this. Very important that this guy, it's actually not made out of steel, but it's underneath mesh tile with a vacuum. That's essential for this whole setup. Just watching this pump be built, just noticing that the drywall is actually heating up with the molten steel, not such that it's going to cool the steel off, which is very nice. So there is that red, hot, molten steel making its way into this liquid reservoir, and it should be holding its temperature when it's inside here, 1400 plus degrees. I'm going to bring in all of it. The pump itself, no doubt, is going to take some damage, but as long as all of it, or as much of it, can get in as possible, that's okay. I see some adult Dracos that were born, so we're going to wrangle them and bring them into the stable. We've got 2 that were born and currently have 5, so we'll have 7 of our 8 in the stable. Just watching the last pieces of molten steel be built, or be moved off into this. Once that is done, I'm going to get rid of this pump. Actually, we'll get rid of this whole section altogether. Make sure, actually, well, let's leave the piping alone. Check on this. We have 1,200 kilograms of molten steel sitting in here for use for the next part of this project. So we're draining the salt water out of this line. So we want to replace it with brine. Because I've got the plan of making a metal refinery, but it's going to be in space in a vacuum. And you're going to have to make sure any machinery that generates heat out in space stays cool with liquid cooling. So we're going to do that with brine, so we'll get rid of this. And then we've got another pipeline that's going to go down here. Take in some brine and a small amount of radiant pipe that should maintain the temperature. Don't want to have too much such that's actually going to freeze the base as this liquid goes up and down. So working on the piping and electrical work all around the metal refinery. All the liquid that's going to take the molten steel is made out of insulated obsidian. Plan is to have 2 temperature checks, one going into the metal refinery, checking to make sure that it's not too hot because we don't want it to turn to gas on the way out. The other thing is we got a temperature check as we send hot liquid in and out of the rocket. The idea there is we don't want the liquid to be too cool because if it goes and touches the rocket wall, it may solidify in the pipes. That's also a bad thing. Now working on the inside of the rocket. This is exactly where we want to have the melting occur. Pretty simple. We just have insulated pipe going in a whole way, except for one single piece right here. And the heat transfer is so extreme that I literally just have one piece as opposed to 2. This one here is insulated. And it's pretty important that we maintain a vacuum here. So that's pretty much it on this side. Again, I just want to make sure that the liquid that goes into this is hot enough. It's about 2,000 or so degrees. If it's above 2,000, you can put it into the rocket. Actually, maybe I'll even make it 2,100. Whoa, that's way too much. On this side, I'm going to put 2,750. If it's below that, you can go into the metal refinery. Otherwise, not. Just need to temporarily destroy this one so they can complete this, and we'll be able to turn this on. Over here, just removing some old light fixtures from a world before. We're adding insulation afterwards. It's going to be the final level. Oh, and we're going to have to take care of these guys too, aren't we? We'll fill that in the same way that did the other one so we don't have zombie spores going all through our base. Just to make sure that we get the most amount of sleep we can possibly get. I do believe everything is ready to go, and this would definitely be a good point for a save in your game. I have done so myself. The liquid you see going around is the coolant. That's just making sure that these two guys stay cool as they operate. Let's turn this on, enable the molten steel to go around, and we'll even put in the first few pieces of things. Say 20 pieces of iron through the metal refinery. Okay, so this liquid reservoir is being enabled. We should see the red hot liquid go in. It's cool enough to go into the metal refinery, so it's going this way, which is good. We should be able to click on this and see the molten steel start to accumulate. 1400 degrees at the moment. The idea is when metal is made, this molten steel is going to be pushed out, but pushed out hotter. And we'll pretty much just have it cyclically go around until it gets hot enough that it's going to go out to visit our rocket. Here's the metal refinery being used. It's the hot molten steel sitting in there, getting warmer. And the process is complete. It's going to be starting to spit out. We are just at the moment that the liquid molten steel is warm enough to go into the rocket. Very exciting time. Just make sure that this all goes correctly. So the idea is it arrives hot enough so that it's going to transfer heat right here and cool down significantly. So it's 2,000 something, 1,200. So if this wasn't hot enough, this would actually solidify in the pipes. Rocket itself, getting pretty hot. Skipping some of these tiles that magically don't take on heat, that's alright. But yeah, we're going to keep watching this increase, 200 plus degrees. I believe the melting point, this is 2400 or something like that. So we get a ways to go, over 300, but we're making quick progress thanks to the metal refinery. So we're having an issue. This metal refinery is overheating. So it looks like this liquid line is not keeping it cool. I'm not sure if this is due with the update of the game or I've done something wrong. Here's the first experiment I'm going to try to do to save the situation. I can see that the temperature of the metal refinery is dropping, which is good. That is related to... it's just showing that the conductor panel is working. It's just not working as fast as I'd like it to. So what I'm wondering, if I slow this down, will that make liquid stay in this panel a little bit longer to be more effective? Still, it's dropping quickly. It would be a little annoying if I've got to actually watch this to continually only operate it when it's cool enough. I'll keep doing some testing. So I removed the metal refinery. I don't know if this is actually going to do anything, but I'm going to try making this out of ceramic. I know ceramic is a material that doesn't take on heat as quickly, so we'll see if this does anything different. Trying out my new ceramic metal refinery. It is increasing in temperature pretty quickly. I'm not certain that there's any difference between making this out of obsidian or ceramic. What I'm just going to have to do is just watch this and only operate it a couple pieces at a time, and when the temperature is actually cool enough. And if it's too hot, just let the cooling line do its thing. Cooling line is working, and it's just not working fast enough. And I'm pretty sure I didn't have to do this in the past, so I'm suspecting this may have to do with a new game update. Unless there's just something subtly different in my construction here, but I don't think so. So this is a very exciting moment. First of all, I've got 8 Drecos in this stable, but this is the first time that I've got enough reed fiber to actually make a critter condo. I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but I guess we'll all find out. So Boots is building the critter condo for us. It's going in the stable. I had to do some rearranging the tiles, just making sure this is still 96 tiles. Very fluffy looking thing. I don't know if the critters are just going to take right to it. I see 1 or 2 maybe on the way. Are you just passing by, or are you actually interacting with it somehow? Oh, you're going inside. I'm assuming only one can use this at a time. The other one is just sort of walking by, but they don't stay in there very long. They got cozy. Sure, what does cozy mean? Happiness +1 for a cycle. Critter enjoyed time. So cool. So reproduction rate is 900%. Versus reproduction rate. Well, this one's glum. I'll do some looking around here. So I have not been able to find out what the effect of this is. It might be the fact that the critters are already happy anyways, and once they reach a certain amount of happiness, you can't get any higher. So this Dreco it says that they're heading to the critter condo, so they haven't gotten the bonus yet. They've got a reproduction rate of 11% per cycle. This Dreco that has visited, it has the cozy status. It also has 11%, so there's no benefit that I can see, assuming the critter is already happy. So let's just watch this critter's going in again, 11%. Going in for a visit in a cozy condo. I mean, it's neat animation, but they were happy anyway. And reproduction rate is still 11. I don't know why we're doing. Or is the scale rate different? 13% versus 13%. Okay. I mean, neat, but why do I bother building this? I just noticed a Draco go in this room. They are glum. They have a reproduction rate of 1%. Maybe this is the case. Still 1%. Even though okay, so they're cozy now. They got a +1 to happiness. They're satisfied, but the reproduction rate is still 1%. No, even now they're going to get treated there. Cannot tell you why you would want to build a critter condo at this point in the game. More molten steel on the way in. We're over 800 degrees. Decided I'm going to make one little change because this is kind of a tipping or a balancing act. You want to run this only when it's cool enough. But liquid that's sitting in the pipe right here can actually get too cool and solidify. So I'm just changing this. I'm going to make a quick change here to make it so that this will go down this direction once this machine becomes filled. So here's the change that I'm doing, essentially having the liquid enter this way. It's going to go in the machinery if it can, but if it can't, instead of being held up, it should be going... Oh, did I not make a connection? It should be going down and then up, preventing the liquids essentially from accumulating in any one spot for too long. It's just waiting for the liquid to exit from the rocket. And there we are. It's moving along. It's fine if it stays there for a second. I just don't want it to stay for like a cycle while I'm waiting for this rocket to cool down. Currently 75 degrees. I'm going to wait for this to go down to about 50 or so. Actually, no. I think we can get away with a piece or two. And I'll just keep running like this until this guy decides it can't take it anymore and opens up. Actually, I want both these tiles open. It doesn't really do me good. If just one melts, I want dupes to be able to get across. But I'm pretty sure if I melt one, the other is not long going to be melted behind. While I'm waiting for that rocket wall to melt, and the fact that I've got this thing inactive for another 30 or so cycles, making a change to this guy. I want to do some insulation. It's very cool stuff that comes out of there. And I want to prevent this from, in the future, cooling down my base. But I also want to take advantage of its coolness when I choose to. I finally spotted the difference of the build of this. So when I switched to ceramic, it no longer overheats at 90 degrees. Now it overheats at 275 degrees, meaning I have much longer to run stuff before it overheats. So yeah, there is very much every reason you want to make the metal refinery out of ceramic instead of obsidian when you're doing this. While I do this, just while I work on the rocket, notice that 2 pips trying to plant here, something here at the same time. Let's just see what happens. We got 1 sleet wheat, and I'm assuming the other one just dropped it there on the ground. Okay, good enough. So we'll be able to continue with 1 more batch of 3 over here and working with other pips to plant along this. And then after this, we just have 1 final floor of sleet wheat. We're up to 1500 degrees. So here's the plan. I've never actually done this before. We'll see how it all goes. So I've got a pump that's going to be continually taking out cool slush geyser water right here, putting it into this liquid reservoir. If this is 90% full or more, get that after hitting a knot gate, it's going to pump water out of the system into water sieves eventually for processing. But until then, it's going to cycle around and around in this granite tile area in radiant pipes, radiant aluminum. And the idea is I have the ability, if I choose, and I'm looking at the temperature of another liquid line going in, if that liquid line needs cooling, it's going to go in here, essentially take the cooling that's coming out of this. So doing two things, it'll actually add cooling to my cooling line that's visiting my basis and machinery, but also raising the temperature of the polluted water before it goes out, because I have to warm it up anyway before it gets to the water sieve. We are putting sporchid plants, or seeds, over here. Do not want them planted accidentally by pips. So hoping that's going to prevent that scenario. Got my granite block together. Still waiting for actually fully testing this out for quite a few cycles, but look for that in the future. And until then, we're dumping this water that's here over into this zone for use later on. We are at 2100 degrees, only about 300 or so degrees left to go. So I was thinking to myself, I have these two stables, one for regular Drecos, another one for glossy, and I don't have any glossy Drecos yet, but why not temporarily put these guys in this stable over here? Actually, if I'm going to do that, I don't have a food source for them, but quick meal wood will do the trick for the time being. The idea is, if I get more eggs laying, there's just more of a chance that I'll get one that's a glossy egg. I have an experiment about this critter condo I want to do. It's going to involve going to the other asteroid, so let's send some reed fiber over there. Next part of this experiment is wrangling one or two hatches that are wild around the base and just jumping them up here. I'm just wondering, with the critter condo, can I boost this guy's reproductive rate when they're wild and create more wild hatches? That would be wild. I'm assuming that's not going to work out, but I've got to test and find out, right? So there goes a critter. Needs to be in a stable. I mean, not the end of the world. I guess I can do that. Well, well, well. Look at this. We have melted our rocket wall. Awesome. Well, you know what? Let's get this hot obsidian out of here. We will store the molten steel here. We don't need to create any more. Let's shut that whole thing down. And we get to go in here and decide what we're going to do. First of all, this is a very hot rocket. I mean, very hot rocket. I'm going to start off by making pieces of obsidian like this. I don't even know if the dupes can mop up this liquid that's right here at the moment. But yeah, we want to cool this off. And I think that's going to be the subject of tomorrow. Because we're nearly done for today. But this is awesome. I don't know if this is a wretchedly terrible idea, but I'm going to try to get the dupes to mop up. Looks like it worked, and they didn't really take any damage from that. Oh, never mind. Okay, so it's tiny bit from Sprocket, but not as bad. Oh, it's getting worse. They're all right though. They're okay. I probably need a med bed, which I've never a triage cot, which I've not built yet because generally haven't had any issues. But let's just throw those together, shall we? Just in case they're needed. Well, just watch this little guy become cozy. They've got a +1 happiness. You don't get as much information when the critter is wild. Maybe you can't affect their birth rate. I'll just leave them in this room for a while and see what happens, see if they multiply or not. But I'm assuming this isn't going to work out. Well, here it is. Rocket is out exploring space. Outside. Oh, this rock. But yeah, that's awesome. So we can do all kinds of things. Again, the first goal is going to be cooling this rocket down. But very excited to have this very awesome rocket available to the dupes. Obviously, much more to do, but a huge step was complete nonetheless. Oh! Almost a success. I'm going to be rewinding a little bit. Notice that I melted the gas input. Checking liquids. Liquids are still fine. We're going to have to roll back just a little bit. So bear with me just a little longer. So roll back to cycle 149. We're just under 2,000 degrees. I want to be here just the moment this thing melts, because I want to cut off the liquid to prevent this guy from melting. So even though it says it's a perfect 20 degrees, you can just spontaneously melt it. I'm assuming if the two on the sides melt, it melts. I'm not entirely sure. I just know that I want to melt these two tiles and nothing else. Fine if this goes, this goes, or this goes, but I certainly don't want that to go. Okay, we've achieved 2,400 degrees and rising. I'm going to watch this very carefully from this point on. So here we are watching this at 2420. It's supposed to melt 2426.9, 2423. Getting very close, 25, 26, 28, we're past it, or for a second we were 29, we're past the, nah, there it is. Okay, stop. We still have to wait for this one to melt. Now. Do we just hope that this guy's gonna melt? Or do I do something? Ha. Let's try putting obsidian. I wonder if I should have actually done that earlier. Anyway, we'll see what happens when a dupe puts this in. Its temperature is still rising though. Alright, so dupe is putting obsidian pipe right there. That's going to help increase the transfer of heat at this particular location. Let's watch this guy. We're at 23, 75, 80, rising. We're at 24, 26, 28. Ah, boom. Haha, there it is. Okay. Now, very quickly, I wanted to go over here. And I will just put in a value that's ridiculous. 9999. Indicating that, no, please don't. Actually, you know what? Even more so than that. I'm just going to cut it right here. And make obsidian. So let's get that molten steel out of the way. Looking inside this rocket. No! No, it happened again. Rocket. Oh, there's something called rock gas? That's interesting, but, I did not manage to do it again. Back to cycle 150. I'm dropping the temperature of this to 2500. That means that the temperature of the molten steel is not going to be as much. So that's one change I'm going to do to see if this works. So the next thing I'm going to experiment is digging out some wolframite, making some tungsten, I believe I can get out of that. It's the first time seeing wolframite on this colony. Let's go to this guy here and concentrate on just producing some tungsten. Star is making us our first piece of tungsten. in this colony. I was just expecting... Oh, there it is there. I was going to say. Pretty certain that's the first time that we saw that. Now, where am I putting that? Radiant pipe. Tungsten. Here and here. Now, that's one of the metals that actually is going to be fine at the temperature that we're going to be putting this molten steel through. Here's some tungsten radiant pipe going through. One piece. 2 piece. Let's just wait for some molten steel to see what happens. First pieces of very hot molten steel going through. Because these are radiant pipes, I expect the temperature should jump faster. My hope is this will melt really quick, and I'll be able to turn this off before this guy here is going to melt. My next thinking is we might want to actually encourage some cooling by putting in some of the salt inside the rocket after things have cooled. I'm going to get this liquid vent put in place before that. So the moment this thing melts, I can put some cooler liquid in the rocket to help prevent this guy from melting. To add to all our worries, we currently have meteor showers going on. We do have protection, so I think we're going to be fine. We shall see. Just looking at the Dracos, and it says probability of getting glossy eggs increase when they eat mealwood. And they're not eating mealwood because of the excess hydrogen. Maybe we need to shut that off for the time being and get some oxygen in here. This time, while we're waiting for the rocket to melt, we're doing a little decorating in the main living areas in the barracks, latrine, and the Great Hall. So I made one observation. I lost power. And when I say lost power, I mean I lost power, not the Deep Space. And I reloaded my game, and the rocket wall temperature dropped. And I had to reheat it a couple hundred degrees. So I'm wondering, the moment these two tiles melt, if I just reset my game, is it going to drop the temperature of all these other tiles to make it safe? I'm going to give this a try. We're getting very close once again. So 2420. We're looking for 2427, let's say, round up. 2427. I've seen it there for a second. We're not going to get a melt on that loop, but maybe the next one. So more molten steel on the way in. I feel like this is going to be the melt. 24, 20, 22, 25, 26, 27, 28 for a second. Boom. We've got a melt. Okay, this guy here is going to melt as well. And this is sitting at 24, 20, 24, 10, 24, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Now this, at the same time, we don't want this guy to melt. This is 24, 12, 24, 22. So this is ahead by a little bit. We want this guy to melt and do not want this guy to melt. My assumption is that if this melts, this goes with it. So we have to stop this at the exact second that this guy, boom. Okay, all right, so we've got to melt a tile. We've got to melt a tile. This guy here is 2422. It is just several degrees from melting. Now, I have a couple of techniques. One of which I was going to dump water in here. But I'm just going to literally try saving this. And coming back and seeing what the temperature change is. Currently, this rocket wall right here, next to this, which I do not want to melt, is 24, 22 and a half. So just reloaded the game. Still 24, 22 and a half. Just let it grow. Oh, boom. But. I let it play for a second. And it instantly dropped. I didn't think this was going to work for a second, but it actually did. It literally did. We just saw it right there. So the temperature, it just drops significantly. It's still 20. Interestingly enough, it's still 24 up there. It's 2,000. It dropped just like instantly, which is awesome. Now we got this hot. We've got liquid here, and this liquid's going to essentially be melt or making this unhappy, or like hotter, which we don't want. We've got a bit of time because the temperature dropped. But what we're going to do is shut down this system because we have our rocket set up the way we want it. We're going to cut this right here. We're going to grow in, make that out of obsidian, put that in like this. Then we're going to watch this hot liquid start to drain out. Let's disable this guy here. We don't need to build or produce any more metal. Nice thing about this whole process is I got a lot of metal out of this. Let's have a quick look at that. For aluminum, 7 tons. And steel was the other thing I produced, a ton of that. Cool. Alright, well, let's go inside the rocket. Make sure this liquid drains out, so we don't add any more heat from this point on. We're safe from melting, at least from that this perspective. So that's on the way out. Now we can actually build out here again, but knowing that our gas input from the outside is there, available to us. Let's check. We still have water input as well. Awesome. For the sake of it, let's just throw some water in there, because that'll start the cooling process. I think that's going to be more of the subject. Hold on, before I do this, let me actually connect. This is going to be more the subject for the next episode. We're going to end pretty much right here. Finally, that we have now that we've got a rocket that has it maintaining its input and output gas and liquid. So we should see the temperature drop even further. 17, 1600, 1500. The dupes are noticing it's pretty hot in here. That's understandable. Maybe we'll actually just tell them, you know what, we'll do the construction later. Let's that's enough. Let's just kind of show that would work. If I couldn't reload my game, that's another option. It's just throwing some liquid on it and letting this whole thing steam out and drop. Whoa! Okay, this has been quite the process of melting these two tiles and not melting. I've done this before, melted these two tiles, but I've never had this melt. So this is the first time I had to be careful about that. So it was kind of interesting. The other thing of noting, making this out of ceramic, very important if it's out in space for this particular operation. Dupes are sitting idle right now. That's okay. I'm quite happy with this. We're definitely going to leave it right there. Last thing I want to check, we got some meal wood that's growing. That's going to increase the chances of us getting some plastic. That's going to be important because we need to cool this guy down. And my plan for that, let's just make sure this liquid is not super hot. We're good. My plan for that is steam turbines, hence the plastic. Let's just finish over here. We're starting a little bit of construction for Pinch of Pepper Plant, Wild Farm, and the pips have been planting. They're on their last floor of sleet wheat. Oh my goodness, we have it. I'm very excited to cool this rocket down and get building out here in space to make a super rocket. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks anyone for liking and subscribing, and even just watching along. Hopefully you enjoyed as much as I have enjoyed. Until next time.